Hi everyone, this is Emmanuel from Italy, but you know me better as Evil Dead Italia. This evening or morning, depending on which time zone you are, we are going to present you a very interesting interview, a talk with Tony Fleecs and Pop Mahn. They both work on the Army of Darkness Forever comic. But before presenting them, I'm going to present my co-host, that is Michael Ebert from Australia. Hello, Mike. How
Hello.
are you?
Good morning. Good evening.
Uh, for the ones which didn't follow the previous live stream, Michael is the administrator of Army of Darkness and Evil Dead Comics Facebook page and Instagram, and he is the most prepared person about the comics about the Evil Dead franchise. So he is the best one to have as a co-host in this kind of live stream.
That's so far.
So, without any further ado, I'm going to present our guest, Tony. Hello, Tony. How are you?
Hey guys,
Well,
happy to
Tony,
be back. Thank you for having me.
excellent. Thank you
It's
for
a
being here.
pleasure. And then Pop Mahn. Hope I spell it correctly.
You did perfectly. Hey, how you
Okay.
guys doing? Thanks
Hello,
for
Pop.
having me on.
No, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Army of Darkness Forever, we're well into it now. Issue 7 has just released today. And Pop, you are the new interior artist from issue 7 onwards.
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Starting with
welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. I really
Great.
appreciate it.
Excellent. Of course, Army of Darkness Forever is a special event series that was to coincide with the 30th anniversary of the Army of Darkness film. It was announced along with a hardcover release of the film adaptation, a new trading card set, and a board game. The story follows 3 different timelines, picking up immediately after the events of both endings of the Army of Darkness film, being the theatrical and the director's cut, with Ash awakening in an apocalyptic 2093. We also follow Ash working at Esmar in 1993 and Sheila in the distant past, who has discovered a rising evil at Castle Kandar. Excellent. So, shall we discuss what's happened so far?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
So, Tony, what can you tell us about the story so far?
When you're reading it, we just got to the part in the story that was sort of like my big, exciting where I wanted this to head to, or I guess we're just getting there. When I first conceived of the story, I knew I wanted to pick it up from, right from the ending of the director's cut, and sort of like show us some of the stuff that Ash would go through in the future. I feel like Bruce Campbell described it as like a Ash versus the Techno Army of Darkness, and so like making what the Techno Army of Darkness would look like and what his adventures in that would look like, but then also because there's so many cool characters in the movie, and because we had the theatrical ending to deal with, I also wanted to show like, okay, well, how did we get to this post-apocalypse? And because so much of Army of Darkness is about the medieval, like, can we still keep a foot in the medieval times and still show like what happened after the movie there as well? So now that Ash has like reconstituted the Necronomicon, the sort of like the mission of the first arc was about him finding these pages of this book and putting the Necronomicon back together. And then he's supposed to get sent home as he's been listening to this wise man the whole time. And so now we're at basically like the twist at the middle of the story, when everything that we thought was going to happen sort of gets turned upside down. And that's where we're at now. That's where Pop comes in. And yeah, so that's what's happening for the next 6 issues.
Excellent. And we have seen some characters so far. Of course, Arthur is now evil Arthur, we can call him. And yeah, not to mention you really dug deep with some of these characters, especially with Sheila's dealings with Henry, of course, and her blaming him for the death of her brother. But yeah.
I mean, that all came from the when I first started working on the series, was just like rewatching the movies a bunch and then writing down what everybody's, like sort of writing little character bios for these characters. And Sheila, there was so little there, but when we came into it, we knew she had just lost her brother and she hated Ash because she thought that's who it was. But through the course of the story, you find out that no, actually, Henry's, they were at war. Arthur and Henry's men were at war with each other. So it was sort of like picking. In the case of Ash, you have so much to work with over the course of like 3 movies, a TV show. Like his character is very solid. Like we know what that is. But Sheila was a lot more like digging through, looking for little nuggets. And the brother part, I thought, was a real big part of it.
Absolutely. Excellent. Okay, so Pop, tell us about yourself, and yeah, when did you when were you approached to join the creative team for Army of Darkness Forever?
Right. So I moved to Texas here a couple of years ago, and I came into contact with Tony doing some of the Texas shows here, and I don't normally come out this way, so I haven't been doing a lot of cons lately, but I got a chance to sit down with Tony at one of these shows here, and we really connected pretty well, I thought, and we got to talking about wanting to work with each other, and and Tony happened to have this thing that he was working on, which was Army of Darkness. And as soon as he had mentioned Army of Darkness, my eyes kind of lit up, and I was just like, "Whoa, what?" Like I was a huge fan of the movie.
That helps.
And yeah, I was one of I've seen the early Evil Dead movies, like the more obscure one, and then of course the newer remake, which is not to say the newest remake. I actually haven't seen that one yet. But through it all, Army of Darkness was actually my favorite one because it was kind of right up my alley as far as just the comedic. I felt like Army of Darkness was more comedic in its approach than Evil Dead. Personally, at least that's the way I took it. And so that's why I was, gravitated towards that movie more. But yeah, like it's, it was a project I just, had to be a part of. And yeah, so I just kind of egged Tony on. I was just kind of, hey man, come on, let me be, get my hands on this a little bit. And yeah, so it all just came together pretty fast and pretty good. And I can't be happier. So
excellent. And Tony, working with Pop, is the process much different than it was with working with Justin, who of course was the Justin Greenwood, being the interior artist for issues 1 to 6?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I mean, Pop and I, we've only known each other for about a year now. So Justin and I have even when we're not working on stuff, we're sort of in like a regular, communication. So when he was working on stuff, I was just a lot. I feel like we were just always talking about it constantly. And with Pop, it's more like we're making a regular comic together. Where like Pop will get the script, and then he'll go take off for a while, and then he'll pop back in and be like, "Here's some pages," and we're just like, "Oh shit, there we are," But it's cool. Like I love the way Pop's art is on this book, and I like the way that it's different from Justin's, but it also feels like in a lane enough that you get to issue 7 and you go like, oh, this looks different, but I still recognize all these characters and it still feels like the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I've read issue 7 and I do feel like it was a smooth transition. Like, of course, different. Well,
we kept Brad Simpson too, and so he just sort of like smooths out the the same colorist on issue 6 and on issue 7 and going forward, and so it just sort of it feels nice. It feels of a piece. I've been a huge fan of Pop's artwork since the 90s. And when I ran into him at that convention, so it was actually in Baltimore. Like we were just sat a couple of tables away from each other.
Yeah.
And then I went over, I was set up with Stray Dogs, and I think Local Man had been coming out at that point. And so I was just sort of chatting it up with him, and asking him about this book that he did years and years ago. And then we just sort of like made friends, and I brought him some of my comics, and I was like, this is the stuff I do. And so I was just psyched to meet him. And then it turned out the very next show both of us were going to, we were also going to the same show. And I had known Justin was only doing the first 6. And so we were looking for somebody to come in and take over. So when I found out that he was available and eager and loved Army of Darkness, I was like, this is great news. So I'm very excited that he could make it happen, you know?
Excellent. It does seem to be typical of the longer series, especially with Dynamite, to mix up the artists. They've done that in the past, especially with they did that heavily. I remember back with Volume 3.
Sure.
Yeah. Something that
we're only doing this once, as far as I know. Pop, you're good for the next foreseeable future. We're okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're
good. Great. Emanuele. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Emanuele, I feel like I've taken the reins here. Did you want to hop in at all?
I have to say I'm loving this one because I can feel you are a fan of this specific movie because I have to say I love Dynamite Comics, and I got all the omnibus stuff and the novelization of the movie, and etc. etc. But I think that after the novelization of the movie, this is the first story that really continue in a certain way the movie without let's say change too much the characters. I mean, Ash is like we recognize him, is a mess of person, and I like the heroic turnout of Sheila, and I like even how you treated the other peripheral, let's say, characters. I don't want to say it so much because I don't want to spoiler anyone, but it works very well, and so I mean it's very respectful, and I think it's very hard to build up a story with this kind of coherence. I don't know what kind of process bring this up. I mean,
well, I mean, it's like I said, a lot of it came from watching the movies and sort of like getting my head in the mode of like, this is what Army of Darkness feels like, you know? I feel like when people have gone in the wrong direction sometimes doing Army of Darkness stuff is when they're like, I love this movie, it's fun, and Ash is so cool, and so then they write it fun and Ash is so cool. But the thing about Ash in the movies is that he thinks he's cool, but he's not cool. You know, like he's successful at this stuff through persistence, not because he's like great or anything. You know, like he just doesn't give up. So keeping that in mind when you're writing the character, and then, I mean, you read issue 1. Issue 1 is basically exactly the movie. You know, like there's maybe 4 pages of that comic that's not just straight from the movie. But I knew I had to sort of like start off very much in the zone of Army of Darkness to get us to the place where I can do the sort of crazy stuff that we're doing now, where it's like there's robots and the Necronomicon's a little baby demon, and you know, like all this stuff that would seem way out if it happened in issue 1. Dynamite was cool in that they sort of let me. When I outlined it, I said, "This is the whole story I want to do. It's this long thing." And they were like, well, we might cut it off at 6. And so for a little while there, it was just like, it could just be a crazy story that has a very bizarre ending, you know? And then luckily it sold well and people liked it. And so we were able to extend it and do this, this second half. But this is the part where, like I said, this is where all the ideas that I had right away when I started thinking about this book is like, I wanted to get to this part where Ash has this, like, you know, he's got a creepy little demon with him, and he's got robots with him, and he's got, you know, like that's the visual that I saw when I thought about like what would a third or a fourth Army of Darkness be. Yeah.
I really like it that, and you talked about a very interesting thing because is a thing I would like to ask to you. I mean, on the web, people liked it a lot, but I mean, from the web you can understand something depending on what kind of group you follow and stuff like that. Maybe you have a more precise idea. What was the reception of the comics, both in terms of you know, how much it sell. I don't know if people are happy, and what are, do you receive feedbacks, stuff like that? I mean,
very little. I mean, they told me that it sold, you know, like what it sold and how much better it did than the previous stuff. I don't mean how much better. They just said like it did better than previous stuff, so we can keep going in this direction. And then I hear from people at conventions and in person and stuff, and then sometimes online. And then sometimes I'll read the reviews, although I try not to dip into that too much, because if I start to let that get in my head, it messes with me a little bit. But I feel like I read a almost unhealthy amount of the reviews, but that's basically the reception that I see.
Excellent. I love how you've even speaking of the other films. I love that there have been nods to the other films. Ash at one point in 2093 visits what's left of the cabin. That was very cool. I suppose you do have to tread carefully as far as what names you use and that sort of thing. From say Evil Dead 2.
Right. The lucky thing about Evil Dead 2 stuff is that they do have that prelude in Army of Darkness, like the flashback at the very beginning sort of gets grandfathered in with the license, but otherwise we're not really allowed to use stuff from Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 or Ash versus Evil Dead or the sequels. But like my intention with this thing, and I think when the filmmakers make the movies too, like their intention is also like, even though they don't own the rights to this movie or that movie, like it's always to make it all fit together really nicely, or make it more complicated depending on which movie we're talking about. But there's ways to do it where you can sort of just like the way we showed the cabin in issue 6, it's destroyed. There's nothing there. So it's not like you're showing the trademark cabin from Evil Dead 2. You know, you're just showing a wreck where there used to be something. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much scrutiny that goes through. And I think part of it also is like how much of a super nerd are the people that do approvals, you know? So like if they're, you know, Michael, if you were doing the approvals, I feel like I would get away with nothing, because you would know like, well, this comes from 2 and this comes from Luckily,
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to say about the Rex, I really love that specific page, because substantially those are the Rex in the real world of something a part of the first Evil Dead cabin, because the chimney stuff you can see there.
I sent you a picture of that, Justin.
It's a mix. It's a real world mix between the Evil Dead 1 cabin, the first Evil Dead cabin, and the Evil Dead 2 cabin. What was the real end in the real world? So I really appreciated that.
Cool.
And of course, the 3 different timelines there, obviously converging. Where I feel like they're getting closer together each issue. We're going to see them.
Yeah, obviously we'll end up all in the same place at the end of this thing. That's sort of where it's all heading. But
I guess that was my next question, Tony. What can you tell? What can we expect in the future?
It's gonna get crazy. Pop like has a lot of stuff to draw. I feel so bad because the first part of this book is just sort of like Ash in the desert wandering around. You know, Justin got to do a lot of like 1 or 2 character pages, and almost in every issue I'll be like, all right, so it's Bad Ash and his full army, and so Pop has to draw these scenes with armies and stuff like that. And so I'm gonna write one of these issues where we sort of like pull back, and it's just a few characters again before we get to the very end of it. But it's really ramping up to be, like everybody's in the same place at the same time. So it's sort of like all culminating in this big battle at the end. But then also, I have the ending planned out, and I'm pretty happy with that and how it sort of like ties things together and fits nicely. But then also like you were saying, like keeping the vibe, like I have a very sort of like, I feel good about the ending of this, and it feels like it fits with Sam Raimi and Army of Darkness, and it feels like a thing. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a good tease of where it's headed. Most of the characters are on the page already, so there's no real, like surprises coming as far as like who's going to show up, but it's just a matter of like when they show up and who fights who, and
Sure. So, yeah, Pop, Tony's keeping you busy then. Like, here, draw this.
Yeah, it's I have to say that my approach to Army of Darkness is it's pretty different than what I actually normally do most of the times. As far as just like the approach of the art style. One of the things that Tony and I talked about when we were chatting it up at the cons was he had seen the earlier stuff I was doing back in like the 90s and early 2000s, and that stuff was had a more cartoony flair than when I started working for DC and Marvel, or more DC, where I kind of had went towards their house style, I guess, or more of a traditional comic book superhero style. And so we talked about approaching Army of Darkness in a more whimsical, or not whimsical, but a more laid back kind of kind of revisiting what I was doing back in the earlier stuff. And honestly, it was kind of cool. It's really nice to follow up on Justin, because when you have like 6 issues of something already established, then it becomes my job to following up to kind of gel with what's already established. And because Justin had done such a great job laying out what's a look for the book, that it made my job easy to follow it up, and to help guide me into a direction that I thought would look pretty nice, with the book. And it was pretty intimidating because Justin's work is so good. It's got a lot of life to it, and a lot of flair, and I love that each character always, it looks spot on, like the movies, or like the movie stars, and from which they came. And that was the biggest challenge, I think, was trying to match all the different intricacies of all the details of the art to kind of have it gel and mesh, and also kind of maybe do something that was my own as well. So but all in all, I think that the approach helped me figure things out pretty easily. And again, the other thing that Tony had mentioned earlier just now was how we're drawing a lot of armies and stuff, and I feel like that's part of the course of my comics career for the past 10 years. Like, I'm always drawing armies of people, and it's something I'm used to, and it's a lot of fun for me. I tend to have to, right, exactly. I challenge myself with exactly how many people I can fit onto a single panel without having it seem overly packed, or having it still be readable. Like when I came from, one of the books that I had done many years ago was He-Man, where it was just armies and armies and armies and armies of of people on every single page. So you know, it's kind of nice to revisit that too. It's again, I haven't done it in a few years, and so it was a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's so good to work on the book.
Awesome.
I feel like
and
that's
can you tell us a
another-
bit about your drawing style technique, your technique, like that, how you approach
Sure.
your art? Yeah.
So, I guess, I think traditionally I'm kind of a draftsman in the sense of like, I analyze what's the first thing I do when I'm approaching like a new project is I'll analyze what's come before me, or before that spot that I'm in right now. And I'll try to understand what exactly makes up that character or that world. And then from there, I kind of examine myself too, as far as like what I've done before and what I'm looking to improve upon, or what I'm looking where I'm trying to go. And with Army of Darkness, one of the things that I really missed was kind of going back to a more cartoony look, and so when I was working on the art, like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, here, I feel like I've worked so hard to fix like anatomy problems and all kinds of like technical problems with my art that I feel like I've lost a lot of flair with my work. I lost a lot of life, I think, by getting so technical. And so with the Army of Darkness, and my approach now is I try to just reconnect with as much flair and as much life as I can, and then still keep it all coherent, and also have it all like basically not be wonky. Like I had a thing where earlier on in my career I drew everything kind of wonky, like a lot of mistakes, a lot of anatomical mistakes and things like that. So the approach here is to life, but not too wonky, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But that's like
mission
the stuff
accomplished, if I may say so. Issue 7 is great.
that early stuff that you did was the stuff that I was most drawn to, and I feel like like a lot of the people that I was drawn to at the same time that I liked that were all doing that thing where they were drawing and then they would do sort of like way out there stuff or cartoony stuff
Right.
to cover for what they didn't know.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
but it's something so charming and exciting about that. And I feel like that, and then all of us as artists, as we get better, we sort of tighten up. And I look back at the stuff I did, 10 years ago, and I'm like, well, I draw better than that now, but I wish I still had
Yep.
that kind of life,
Yep.
I identify with that completely, but I feel like you're definitely bringing a lot of that same energy into this stuff.
Awesome.
It's
But
real
it's hard too. I feel like it's hard once you've gotten to a certain level, or once you've drawn a certain way for a long time, where like you're saying, we just keep getting better and better and better, and fixing all of our mistakes. And then once you get to a certain point, it's hard to get back because of because editors and the fans kind of know you for a certain look, and then sometimes when you go back or try to go back, then it's like you lose just a lot of people along that you've acquired along the way. I think so. That's kind of the hesitancy, I think, sometimes with a lot of artists.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking mainly for myself, of not going back before. But then along comes a project like Army of Darkness, where it's like, hey, let's go back, and then it was okay for me to do so. And I think that's that's kind of the serendipitous moments, like within your career that happens.
It fits really nicely too, like you were saying, just because it comes right after Justin, and Justin does such exaggerated characters and stuff that you can sort of like exaggerate more, and it feels really nice.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Like it's hard to you can't do you can't draw a pretty book without having, you know, a good script to draw from. So hey man, kudos to you, because you know the stuff is really really good. A lot of
Thanks,
fun
man.
to draw. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I agree with Pop. I mean, it's very good material.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good team.
That's why we come here to this Army of Darkness podcast, baby.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a question for both of you. One is for Pop. I mean, you work from you talk about even your past experience
Mhm.
in drawing stuff. So my question is, how much technology has changed the way in which you work, or if you worked already with technology since the beginning, and so there is not a huge change in that.
Well, you know, I started working back in the '90s, so you know that with that in mind, it's everything was like, you know, pen and ink, and drawing on board, drawing on paper. Um, Roundabouts, maybe, I guess, uh, early 2000s or so, maybe like 2010 or so. I kind of made a switch from working like at DC and Marvel proper to doing more licensing stuff and creative services stuff. And in that sort of industry, or that sort of department, you get a lot of changes going back and forth, and it just wasn't viable for me to keep drawing on paper. So I made a technical switch at that point to draw more on the computer, because technology was also catching up to, to art, basically, you know, what artists needed it for. And so I made that switch because where it was like you draw something on paper, send it in through fax or whatever, and then having like a billion and one changes, and then just redrawing everything over and over and over again. It was just a huge. I mean, it was really a major time suck for that process. So making the digital switch, it was like I was able to make changes on the fly, and I was able to be much more productive with that. And of course, you know, that kind of carries over to what I'm doing now, because I'm just, you know, really used to working digitally, and that's where I'm at. Basically, it's like I'm pretty much 100% digital at this point. You know, it's just easier for me. It's faster too. I could never pull off the amount of work that I do if I wasn't working digitally.
And how much is that when if it happened when you use again pencil and stuff?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I mean, being all digital
Mm.
nowadays, does it happen you use pen and ink like sometimes,
Oh,
or just
Do
for
you still go
fun
back
maybe?
to do you still
right,
go back
right.
to pencils every now
Yeah,
and then?
Yeah.
no. I if I'm doing commissions and stuff, then I work on with pen and ink, and of course, you know, if you're doing sketches at shows or at conventions and stuff like that, then yeah, you got to, you know, you have to, you have to be on board, and doing physical art. I will say this though, is that coming back to physical art after being digital is pretty challenging, because you know, you don't have like the Control Z to rely on. You know,
Yeah,
like with digital, I have to be more careless. I think that's why I'm faster, because I'm just more careless than throwing a bunch of lines on the board or on the art. Whereas when you're drawing on paper, then you have to be very exact in what you're doing, because you know it's much harder to cover up mistakes or to fix things. So you're much more yeah, you just have to be much more precise when it comes to art or on art and board.
Okay.
great.
Excellent. Can we talk about the covers now? As of issue 7, we've got a couple of new cover artists on board. Being, where are we? I've got these written down. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's still me. And it's
Bjorn
still,
Berens and Chris Burnham.
oh yeah.
Now,
Well, Burnham showed
so
up.
that,
Burnham showed up at the end of the last arc.
Yep.
He came in to replace Nick Dragata. Nick Dragata had done the first few issues, and then he had to bail. He had other stuff he had to go work on. And Burnham is a buddy of mine who I worked in a studio with for years, who is a famous Batman artist, but also just like a huge horror movie nerd, huge Army of Darkness fan. So this was an easy, like, hey, come help me out and do this. And he was like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, he was so excited. And so you'll notice Burnham's are the only ones besides mine that have really anything to do with the story, because just like Justin, like he and I are in like a pretty constant, text thread. So he'll, whatever time, middle of the month when it's time to do these covers, he'll hit me up and go like, all right, what's this one? What's on this one?
Cool.
And then, the A cover artist who replaced, I think, Francesco Mattina, he's doing super cool stuff. I don't know that guy at all, but he's kicking ass. He's doing really neat covers.
Yeah, really detailed. Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that you brought Chris on. You do have some say as to the various cover artists involved?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Joe Ryban, the editor on this, is very, I guess I would say, collaborative with me on this. I really come from making creator-owned comics mostly, like Stray Dogs is creator-owned, and Local Man and Feral and Uncanny Valley, all these things where like I have a lot of say about what the book looks like. And so Joe, either because we know each other a little bit, always turns to me and says like, what do you want? Who do you want on this? Or he just, knows that I know a lot of people. I'm not sure, but yeah, like, I brought Pop along. I brought Justin. I brought Nick Dragata and Chris Burnham. And so he's real collaborative about that. Like, who do we want to see on this thing?
And I guess in the past, with the covers that you've done for previous series, you were brought in by that creative team. It was the other way around. Like say with
those ones I was just brought in by Joe and by Nick Barucci.
Okay.
I started working at Dynamite they basically just hired me to rip off Scotty Young baby covers. Like that's how I ended up over there. Is they were like, we can't afford Scotty Young, but you're doing My Little Pony right now, and we know you like horror movies. So they just hired me to do those, and for many years I just drew like cute little baby covers for them, or random license, Boo the World's Cutest Dog, or Animal Jam, or you see the ads in the back of your Army of Darkness comics, and still in the back of every Dynamite comic, you see this little Boo the World's Cutest Dog that I drew. Every single issue, it's on that last.
There you go, lives on. Excellent,
yeah.
Excellent, and that's very cool. Well, let's have a look at some covers now, if we can. I am just going to present my screen. Bear with me.
I'm going to put that full screen so everyone can enjoy it in full resolution, whatever the resolution of this video is, because not the video you prepared, the video of the streaming. Sometimes it's jumps up and down with quality, so it's arriving. I'm going to add to the I'm going to put it full screen. Here it is. Let's go.
There it is. Okay, so starting with issue 7, which of course just came out today. That is our main cover from Berens, or Beyond Berens.
I love how he's looking that guy behind him.
The guy behind him, yeah. Like I said, yeah. Babu. Moving along, we got the next Arthur Sidon. Now, of course, he's doing seems to be doing covers for all issues.
Yeah. Just following his bliss, man. With whatever weird shit he think about on the.
I look forward to each one. They're great.
Yeah.
And Tony, is your number 7?
Story
good.
Specific.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's a bond forming there between our the Devourer is what we're calling the living Necronomicon, isn't it?
Yeah, we call him baby Nicto. If you'll notice, in that one, I accidentally drew his boomstick in there too. He does not have that, but I feel like
I've been looking for that.
The me that draws the covers and the me that writes the comic are two different people.
Sure. And here we go. Chris Burnham's cover for issue 7.
Almost
Very
the
cool.
same cover, just more hateful, you know.
Sure, yeah, taking it up a notch. Yeah.
These remind a lot of the Lion King, you know.
Circle of
Pride-
death. Yeah. And okay, moving on to issue 8 out next month. I don't have the mid next month. That is issue main cover, of course. Beyond Baren's.
That
Very
chainsaw looks
detailed.
3D.
Look at that chainsaw. Looks gnarly.
Right
Doesn't it?
for me.
Excellent. Beautiful.
Is he in heaven there? I don't know what's going on. Looks like he's just looking down on it. Looks like All-Star Superman #1, like he's just sitting in heaven looking down. Once again, Arthur Soydam just
Other side of the Muhammad Ali homage here.
Man, I just picture him just high as shit and just going, "What's the deal? All right, let's go." This guy's going crazy.
Hilarious. I love this one. This is again
Thank
very story based.
Yeah.
Say this.
Yeah, I love the idea of like in every different timeline, the armies of darkness that Ash has to fight against are like a different kind of army, and so like really showing off like the 1993 Army of Darkness. I thought this was a fun idea,
but with the modern touch, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is our C.
It's Burnham's.
Issue 8. That's Burnham's. Yes, of course. Yep. No, cover D. Again, so you filling him in on what's going on in the story there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Sheila in a surprise guest appearance that pops up in issue 8. Although I guess I didn't tell him it takes place in a forest. Whatever, it's fine.
Oh, read on.
Yeah.
Again, speaking of detail, this is our issue 9 main cover.
Yeah.
From Beyond. And
yes.
That's just incredible. I mean, can we get in on that? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Disgusting.
Rock.
Really good. Sodom here again.
Badass. Who knows? I love that one. Man. I feel like we got to write the story, whatever's happening here.
yeah. Bring it in. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah. And Tony, here is yours for issue 9.
That's pretty sweet.
Right. Things are heating up for Sheila there.
Yeah, as you can see, I try to do these pretty fast. That's the secret of my covers, is that they're usually about one character, and I'm just trying to cook.
So. Capturing that one scene. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Burnham does not
again. That was a Big Ben in the background.
Yeah. Nobody told him to draw the
Very
carousel. He just couldn't help it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
His robot buddies, where would he be without them?
Yeah.
During the apocalypse.
Yeah, little spider guys.
That's right. Okay, so that now I just wanted to share. Tony has given us a exclusive look at his cover for issue 10. Now this hasn't.
Wow.
I haven't found any other trace of this in an announcement yet. So without further ado, sorry.
Exclusive.
Yes, exclusive. You've seen it here first, people. Ready? This is Tony Fleecs' cover for issue 10.
Awesome.
Little guy.
Little guy. Looking good.
That's great.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very happy about the direction of this book, that they sort of let us take in this book, that, because I wrote down in the very beginning when I pitched the thing, like, and then there's a baby Necronomicon, and they were just like, yeah, right on. This is fine. Go right ahead. And so we're having a lot of fun. Pop draws a really hilarious baby Necronomicon, like he has to be
a lot of fun.
And sometimes he has to be cute, and he's killing it.
Yeah.
No, it's a fun character to draw. So
I'm glad they're giving you that freedom to have fun with it. That's great.
And that was sort of the first stuff that Pop worked on too. Is we were working on the design for this character at the end of issue 6, and so we had like a cool email chain going. That was me and Justin and Pop, and we were sort of just like passing drawings back and forth. Like maybe it should look more like this or something like this. So like, well, I wanted Pop to be like comfortable with this character because he was going to be the artist that drew it the most, you know, and so that was fun, sort of like a fun entry into him working on this book too.
Yeah, no, I love that process. You know, I really kind of miss being in a studio and working with a lot of people. You know, nowadays it's all just me sitting here. So, but you know, you kind of miss that input, and being, you know, that chain was just, you know, phenomenal. It was a good time, you know, just passing stuff back and forth and just, you know, just exchanging an idea. And it was just I really miss that, you know. This
little like twist on his forehead is definitely a Pop addition. He's got like this Bob's Big Boy like twist, like soft serve ice cream cone.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's I'm not even sure whether it's a horn or hair myself. So it's you know, because it wouldn't really make sense for it to be hair, because, you know, it's like he's supposed to be the living or the embodiment of the Necronomicon. So and there wasn't any hair on that book. So I mean, it could be like, you know, hardened pages or something, but
I think it's like a skin tag or something, just like a
skin tag.
But I like the hair aesthetic. It kind of gives sells the innocent baby look more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, I'll just stop sharing there, Emanuele. Take it back.
It's disappear. You can take it.
There we go.
You removed that or?
Yeah, no, fine.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay, we're back. We're back full screen. Okay.
Excellent. All right. I guess I just, Emanuele, before we continue, I just wanted to ask you both what you're currently working on. Of course, Tony, you had a lot of success with Stray Dogs back in 2021. Amazing story. Really good. And of course, I had the follow-up prequel, Dog Days. You are now working with Trish Forstner once again, who worked with you on Stray Dogs, on Feral. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Feral is it's like a spiritual sequel. It's a follow-up to Stray Dogs with me and Trish Forstner and Tone Rodriguez and Brad, who colors Army of Darkness. It's a story about 3 indoor cats who get lost in the middle of the woods during a nightmarish rabies outbreak. So it's basically a zombie story, but with cats. So it's an ongoing story. It's you know, we're hoping to do as many as they did of The Walking Dead. Like, we just want to do a shit ton of the story with these cats, you know, like trying to find their way in this world that's sort of like falling apart. The second issue comes out, I think, next week. And we just sent the 3rd issue off. So we're cranking. We're having fun making this comic.
And issue 1 really hit the ground running. It was a good read.
Thank you. Yeah, I sort of like having done Stray Dogs and having this be like a follow-up series, I felt the pressure to have it really move. And I think it sort of comes from having written all this other stuff too, you know, like a lot of these Army of Darkness issues, I feel like they kind of zip as well. And I think of that as the thing that I'm trying to do, not sort of like a hindrance to my stuff. Like I'm happy when people are like, man, I ripped right through that. Because like I always enjoy that as a comic, you know, like it feels like a nice little, you know, feels like it happened to me rather than something that I did, if that makes sense. But yeah, it really moves. By the end of the first arc, we'll have really covered a lot of ground, and a lot of sort of like exciting changes happen, and new characters come and characters go. So yeah, there's that book, and then I'm doing still Local Man with Tim Seeley full time, which is both of us writing it and both of us drawing it. And it's about a superhero that like a former 1990s Image comic superhero who is now like fired and canceled, and has to move home with his parents. And now he lives in this small town where he's not allowed to be a superhero anymore, but people still need help, and bad things keep happening. And he has to sort of like figure out if there's a way for him to fix that without being a superhero, just being a regular guy. And he's sort of a fuck up like Ash is. So it's fun to sort of like write as many fuck up characters as I get to write. He's sort of like the superhero version of an Ash, like a real dipshit.
Forte. Specialty. Fuck up characters.
That's what I do. Yeah, dogs, cats. That's my main view. And then I'm writing this, as you well know, and then there's something else. Oh, Uncanny Valley.
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, which is like a coming of age story. It's the most different of all my stuff, but it still feels like the other stuff because it has cartoons and sort of feels like animation. But it's a coming of age story where a boy feels out of place, and he finds out that that's because his grandfather's a cartoon character, and he has to go on this adventure with his heretofore unknown cartoon grandpa. So issue 1 of that came out a couple weeks ago, and then issue 2 will be out, with the next 3 weeks or something too.
Look at that Looney Tune vibe, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's like a Roger Rabbit type, like Roger Rabbit, but with a ton of heart, and sort of like about a kid, sort of like Stand By Me, but with Roger Rabbit.
Excellent. Pop, I have done less homework with yourself, but of course with your background, with a lot of work with superheroes. I do know you've worked on Ghost Rider, The Flash, Batgirl, Injustice, to name a few, but also you did mention He-Man with DC Comics as well. But yeah, what are you working on at the moment?
I took a breather out of comics for a few years. Right now, I'm working on art for a video game with a studio called Pixel Vault. I've been doing that for a little bit here, and it keeps me pretty busy. But I'd love to dabble in comics when I can, and but so it's just mainly gaming, and this is really only my only comic work. I do have another comic thing happening at the same time, but I really can't talk about it too much. Still kind of like a top secret stuff. Mom's the word.
Sure. Fair enough. And I do believe I didn't find anything else. You working with Dynamite? This is your first.
Yeah. It's my
Dynamite?
first foray with Dynamite, and so far so good. It's been a fun process. I work with Joe Rybandt, and but mostly I exchange with Tony, so the process is just there.
They pay you though. You get you work with the accounting department. That works.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so all right, so here's a weird thing about me. I am the accounting department's worst nightmare, because I am really, really bad about sending in my my invoices. Like, I just don't do it too often until I'm like reminded, like, hey dude, where's the invoice for this thing? And then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that. So I and then I'll send like a bunch of invoices in, and they're like, oh, what are you doing to me? Like, why do we have to pay for like 10 books at all in one go? Just like,
do the same. It's really same thing. If I have enough money to float, I like to stack up a few, so that the check feels like a good check when it shows up.
Yeah, no, it's just I'm just really, really bad. I live off of ramen a lot, so off of ramen noodles. So I mean, I don't ask for much. I don't need much, so it helps to be to not be needy, I guess. Yeah.
Excellent. Emanuele, I have exhausted my notes.
I have a question for Tony. I would like to ask, you are currently working on 3 different projects, right? If I understood correctly, one is Army of Darkness Forever, one other one is Feral, and the other one I didn't catch the title, but is the one about the superhero.
Local
So yeah. So what is? I mean, I suppose you have already in mind the full story of all three or stuff like that. But how do you interleave between stuff? I mean, how much you have to switch from one to another to keep going on any project?
Well, yeah, I do have the thing that makes it where I can jump around and do this much stuff at the same time is that I do have the outlines done for Local Man, for Uncanny Valley, for Army of Darkness, and for Feral for the for a little while into the future. Like Feral's an ongoing story, so there's like we know what the end is, but there's more to fill in the middle. But while I'm this busy, I'm working on 6 things right now. And so I can sort of like jump from one to the next because I have the outline ready to go, and I can just sort of like reread the previous issue and sort of make sure my head's in the same place, and then jump back into that. But it is hectic, and I would not be able, like yesterday I had to outline a new thing, and when I was writing it, I was like, I hope they like this outline, because I don't think I have the fertile brain space to do another version of this, like I just need them to go like, we love this, moving on, because I do have way too many things going on. And it's all because I said yes to everything that sort of like came out of Stray Dogs doing really well. So this is one of those books, Uncanny Valley is one of those books, Local Man and Feral are those, So yeah, we're working on 6 things. It's a lot of jumping around. Like I was lettering Feral before we talked, and then I'm gonna write Army of Darkness after we talk, and then the next, I don't get to really stay on one thing for too long, except for Local Man, which I have to draw. So that is like Pop said, I think before we turn the cameras on, like the last 2 weeks of every month is just cramming, getting everything done for that issue of Local Man.
And I have a question. Does it ever happen? Did it ever happen to you? You mixed up ideas from the different, working on different stuff. Maybe
I start to see like themes or things that I really like in a story. They creep up in every story, and so I have to figure out different ways of presenting them. Where like it doesn't happen in this book, but like in 3 of my other stories, there's like a moment where like a million of something show up, like the wildebeest and the Lion King, and luckily for Pop, that doesn't happen in this story. But I get very excited about that idea of like, and then everything shows up, and so I have to figure out different ways to attack that so that it's just not the same every time I write it into something. So yeah, I haven't gotten to the point where I'll like write Ash's name into like a Feral script or something, but I do. It won't be like characters. It'll be like ideas and story points and stuff like that that'll end up sort of like intermixing and intermingling.
I have a question for Pop from SJ Adams. Pop, please down the powers that be for a DC AOD crossover.
Yeah, we need to see Batman and Ash.
Awesome.
Batman and Ash.
Like the missing piece, right? Like the Ash is crossed over with everything else.
I tell you, I would love to see a Ash and Lobo crossover.
Yeah.
That would go to insane places, I think.
Excellent. We've had a lot of talk on my page lately about crossing over with Deadpool. I think that would be a lot of personality in one book.
Yeah. It would be.
Do you know that there were an Ash versus Lobo short movie on
There's
YouTube?
A what?
Really?
There is an Ash versus Lobo. Ash versus Lobo and the DC Dead. Awesome. You can find it on YouTube. Just a moment, I'm going to find the real name of the from the team What the Fuck Lol, WTF Lol. They did Ash versus Marvel Zombies, movies,
Nice.
short movie,
Yeah.
and then they
Oh,
did
I saw
they.
that one.
I'm not joking. Just a moment. I'm going to show you the cover of this one because it's. I see. I think it's something like 1 years ago almost.
Right. Nice. Nice. Well,
Just now.
it's like it's funny. People ask me, like who's my favorite comic book character and whatever and all that, but they tend to be like like Spider-Man's my one for Marvel, but at DC I just love Lobo. That's the one.
Here it is.
So yeah. So yeah, Lobo is just that's the deal,
Oh.
man. And I think that's why I gravitate so much with Army of Darkness. Look at that. That is so cool.
Yeah. It's even funny. I mean, it's
It's like
pretty.
21
It's
minutes
a
The
well
long.
Marvel Zombies one, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah. I love it. I mean, it's very,
Yep.
it's very nice. It's work.
Yeah, some of these fan films are very well done.
I'm sharing the link on the comment section. Just a
Awesome.
moment. So
Awesome.
Sweet.
anyone that's never seen this one, Ash.
Man.
Hmm.
And anyway, before saying this, you have to see the previous one, that is Ash versus the Marvel zombies, because it is a direct sequel of that one.
Nice.
Yeah, very well done.
Sweet.
I'll
I
definitely
can't
have to
wait
go
to
check
see
it out in a second.
Yeah.
Excellent, yeah. But it would be great to see Ash team up with a superhero of some sort, or an anti-hero of some
Yep.
sort in
Yeah.
the
I
future.
mean, Ash is a superhero, but basically, I mean, the way that he's portrayed. Yeah.
Well, he's certainly our
Essentially.
hero.
I've always wondered. So Ash fall in like the opening of Army of Darkness. He falls from the sky, right? Anybody that falls from the sky like that and lives through that, superhero, in my book.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even though he lands flat on his face, though. No superhero landing.
Well, we don't know what way Superman was pointed in that little spaceship. He could have been face down. He could have been diving.
First.
Very true. So he gets rid of
I see questions about Mia. Obviously, we don't have the rights to using Mia in the book, but we that will, when you get to the end of this, that'll be addressed. Like everything will sort of fit together nicely when you get to the end of this. And what would I think if they put Jenna Ortega in an Evil Dead movie?
Yeah, it's a particular question. It's a peculiar question, that one.
I think
I don't know.
From anime.
I feel like she's in enough horror movies at the moment.
But she's not going to be in the Scream one, right? So maybe.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, talking about Evil Dead Rise, I like that. I mean, it's indirect because the Evil Dead Rise took the inspiration from Army of Darkness, obviously. But the thing that you talk about the 3 books is in a certain way a nod to Evil Dead Rise too. Currently, even if the 3 books come from Army of Darkness, because Evil Dead Rise took that concept from Army of Darkness for sure. So it's
for
nice
sure, yeah.
to see.
I think they're all all of the 3 Necronomicon stuff comes from the same place, comes from that scene in Army of Darkness where you see the 3 Necronomicons, and everybody who writes and who makes this, makes movies or writes the comics or books or whatever in this, that's something everybody I think thinks about, is well, what about those other ones? Nothing's ever just what it seems like in this world, especially with the Kandarian demon and there's so much evil and evil in the wind and everywhere, that if there's these books, there's going to be more to them, as the thing goes along. So yeah, I love the idea of there being sort of the fan theories about how the 3 Necronomicons fit together in the remakes, but I also love that we just had them sitting there in Army of Darkness that we could use in this series. So and they get to be sort of fun characters as the story goes along too.
Yeah, in a couple of life ago, I don't remember if which one we talked about characters of the Evil Dead franchise, and at a certain point it came out that both the book and the Chainsaw 2 are characters of are characters of the franchise. I mean, even if they don't talk at all. I mean,
Sure,
the
yeah.
book sometimes it talks,
Very
but
much.
the chainsaw doesn't talk. In fact, when the chainsaw is destroyed in the Ash versus Evil Dead final, people get mad for that.
For sure, yeah.
They killed the chainsaw.
Yeah, they kill it. Yeah, yeah, it was a murder. I mean,
But yeah, it's very, yeah, we become so passionate about inanimate objects.
Well, I mean, that's part of the fun of this book is sort of like like I said, I looked at the movie at the beginning and sort of took stock of like all the stuff that was important and make sure that we sort of like pay respect to all that stuff and make all that stuff count and matter. But then also like when we get to add stuff in this story, have that feel like it fits in and feel like it's a part of a thing. So like I'm very excited about like the new stuff that we're bringing to it as well as the old stuff and having them sort of like stand next to each other and fit together nicely. I love seeing, you know, Ash and that baby and his big fucking Cable from the New Mutants gun, you know, all being together on the page, you know.
Oh. That cable gun is absolutely a blast to draw, by the way. And I'm never gonna get every detail the same in every single panel, by the way. It's just gonna change.
Oh, I'm thinking
It's gonna be it's gonna be
We know what
a
it is.
total it's gonna be a total 90s it's gonna be a total 90s gun, by the way. It's gonna change in every panel. Just it's like, hey, where did that piece come from?
yeah, I don't think they were ever drawn the same back in the 90s either. It was always a completely
exactly different. So yeah, no, it's I'm carrying on that tradition. Basically.
Yeah, I drew it on a cover and I didn't even look at the book. I was just like, I know what it looks like. We'll do it like this.
Yeah. I basically that's kind of what I did. And well, actually, I'm actually drawing those pages right now, and it's funny because as I'm going, I'm kind of like, you know what, like this is probably not going to match, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
Well, you know,
so
me
are
and
we.
anything, we're good with it.
Mm-hmm. Great job, guys. Keep up the good work. Loving it.
Thank you.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, look forward to the next 5 issues. Yeah, with 7 being out today. So get down to your local comic shop if you haven't got it in your standing order already.
There's 5 issues more, and then we're doing a special at the end too. So there's going to be a big special. So it's goes up through 12, and then there's going to be a special issue, probably one of those dynamite ones that cost $10 or something. And the special at the end is it's going to be like super fun. I feel like after all the plot and all the whatever that we're going to get into at the end of this, as far as like tying everything up and like making all the threads connect, the special is just full on like gory, like violent Army of Darkness fun. So I feel like it's sort of like the dessert after the end of the meal. So we'll talk about that.
Best last.
We'll talk about that next time. You should have us back when the thing's over, and we'll talk.
Yeah,
about
great.
We'll
do a wrap up. That'd be great. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one.
I feel like that will take us through to Halloween. So you know, this special you're talking about, we'll have like a bit of almost a tie-in with Halloween, maybe.
Yeah, pretty good timing, I think. I just did the cover for 11, and so I got one more regular series cover to do, and then I got to do the cover for that one. So yeah, I guess that would be right around there. That works out. Good timing.
Cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Been a good year for comics.
Oh,
Excellent. Emanuele, have you got anything else?
I think not. I loved to talk to Tony and Pop, and obviously you, Mike.
It
was a great ride. I mean, I always love to talk about Army of Darkness comic. This Army of Darkness Forever is taking a place in my heart because I am really curious about how the story progress toward the final, the finale. Sorry, and so thank to Tony, thank to Pop to have joined us. We will be happy to have you again, as we said, for a final wrapping up when the series is going to finish or when it's finished, depending on
Awesome. We'll be here.
depending on.
Yeah, sounds
And
great.
so thank you very much for anyone following this live. As usual, we appreciate anyone that followed this, and thank to our guests, thank to Mike, and have a good day or good evening or everything depending on your time zone, because it's a mess.
All right. Yeah. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Exactly. Goodbye.
Appreciate you.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thanks very much,
Goodbye.
everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.